Welcome to the Self Love Uncensored Podcast. We are your hosts. I am Vanessa McWilliams.
And I'm Amanda Wozni.
And we are self-proclaimed experts in all things self-love.
Here you'll find uncensored discussions about life, living unapologetically, and becoming our best selves. Welcome to episode 18.
18. So crazy.
Getting up there.
So good.
Our podcast is legal drinking age.
That's so good.
In Alberta, anyways. Depends where you're listening from.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I remember when we were younger, or when I was younger, Greg, I think, is 3.5 years older than me, 4 years older than me. And when I turned 18, I was like, woohoo. But then when we went back to BC to visit his friends and family over the summer that same year, I was so pissed because I'm like, I'm legal drinking age at home and I can't drink here. Like, what the hell? I ended up getting snuck into some bars and no one said anything, but I was pissed. I was like, what the hell is this?
I grew up in BC and I had my 18th birthday. We were in Olds, Alberta, actually at a cattle show. So I got to go to the bar, but then when I went back home, I wasn't of age. It was
so bizarre, funny. Right?
Yeah.
I know I was pissed off. I was like, I was at that age though.
So stupid.
Totally. And it goes perfect with what we're going to talk today. Cause I was like so full of ego and like arrogance. Like you can't tell me what to do. That's my old.
I'm allowed to do that's where I come from.
Yeah. I was like full on Maury Povich with the finger snap. You don't know me. Oh yeah. 100%. Y'all don't know me. Oh God. Right? Back in those days. Good Lord. Today we're having a really cool conversation. Actually, I'm excited for this. We're going to talk about confidence versus ego versus arrogance. I think this is so good because I don't know about you, but when I look at confidence and ego and arrogance, like I can tell the difference between the three, but a lot of times some people, when they're not familiar with the three different terms, can sometimes think that confidence is arrogance or confidence is ego, or mix any of them up and they can be misled to be one thing instead of another. And I think it's once you have a really clear idea of what the three of them truly mean, and the person, the person's heart and such, you can really start to decipher like what true confidence is versus arrogance versus ego. So I'm really excited to talk about this.
I think it's important to distinguish that they're not interchangeable, right? Like somebody who's super cocky or egotistical is not necessarily somebody who's confident. Usually those kind of people actually lack self-confidence, and that's why they act the way we do. I think we talked about that a few episodes ago when we talked about bullying, right? How bullies are very ego-driven people. They need to be like me, I'm better than you, I'm bigger than you, I'm tougher than you. But inside, they actually completely lack confidence in themselves, and that's how they make up for it. So
100%.
I think it's important to distinguish that they're not interchangeable. They are very different characteristics.
Absolutely. So to kick things off, I just want to read through like the definitions of which each of them are. And these are like the definitions that we pulled off of the internet, off of the dictionary. So they sound kind of lame, but you're going to get the gist of it. So confidence is the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something, or firm trust. A feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. Sometimes you can hear like an example, she's brimming with confidence. I think it's so good because like I know the people who we work with, and with our whole group of master trainers and all the coaches and such that we work with, I think that we can look at each of them and say like, those people are confident, right? Versus I think before we had ever done this work, I know for myself, I can't speak for you, but for myself, like I grew up and I always felt like the people who had confidence weren't actually truly confident. Like you had just said, like I always felt like it was a fake thing, or like it was an ego driven thing, or they were full of themselves. Whereas now I look at, the people, especially because I can't, of course, look at myself. So I look at the people that I share space with, because I would hope that I'd be the same, level that they're at, and know that, okay, confidence is truly actually a real thing. And it's not anything that I grew up believing to be true, I guess.
Yeah.
Ego, a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. So the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious and is responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity. So this is really good. This is more or less like where your limiting beliefs and shit live, right? Like this screams comfort zone.
Yeah.
Full on, full on. Arrogance is the showing an offensive attitude or superiority proceeding from or characterized by arrogance, an arrogant reply. That doesn't
I hate it when they use the word in the definition.
Right?
It's like, no, you're not supposed to do that.
I was reading it. I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense.
No.
I totally understand
like,
it.
Arrogance and ego are both, they're very similar, and they can almost cross like some of their characteristics over. But I do feel like, and this may just be my opinion, like I do feel like a small dose of ego is okay, because I think the ego applies to like that like the fake it till you make it kind of attitude, right? So like if you have a little bit more than confidence, because confidence, we'll talk about this in a minute, but it has a predecessor of competence. Like when you're good at something is when you're confident at it, right? Like if you're brand new at something, you have no confidence. When you're brand new learning how to walk, you don't have confidence because you don't have a freaking clue what you're doing. Totally. Now that you're an adult, you're confident walking because you know how to do it, right?
Yeah.
But I think having a small bit of that ego in there is totally okay. Like we're not, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Arrogance is not a great thing.
No,
at all.
Arrogance is swinging way too far, I think, to one side.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that's the very like me, I'm better than you. I know more than you, whether you do or not. Right. Like it's kind of like a facade, right?
It's put it out there. Yeah. It's a total superiority. It's a power. I think it feels like a power grab.
Yeah.
That's what I always think of is what are you grasping for?
I think arrogance is what makes up for confident, like filling the confidence bucket when you actually aren't confident.
100%.
Right. That's when you see arrogance as somebody who internally actually completely lacks confidence, but they're going to put on this show. And then the way they come across is that 10 feet tall, bulletproof, puff chest puffed out, like, I know more than you do, blah, 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 blah. Right. Totally. So, and I think ego is important to have in there, but arrogance, if you're going into the arrogance field, I think you're missing the mark on confidence, and for sure.
I think it's important too, like in my own personal opinion, is that arrogance as well as something is like a show. I find when I'm around people who are arrogant, it's when you're confident, it's like more of natural. A quieter. It is. It's more of a natural, quiet quality, right? Like when you're truly confident in yourself, it doesn't matter who or what or anything that's happening around you. But when you have the arrogance quality, you can pick those people out of a crowd with like, because they're there to put on a show, right? They're there to prove something. And it's like when you have true confidence, there's nothing you need to prove. Yeah. Right. And that's one of the big telltale signs for me is when I come across someone with the touch or maybe more of a touch of arrogance that you can pick them out of a crowd. And I always have sympathy for those people. I have compassion for those people because sometimes there's a lot of pain there, but that's a whole other episode that we could do.
Yeah. It is interesting. If you take what you hear on this episode and go out into the world, like you'll definitely be able to, for the most part, there's definitely some people that are ego or arrogance driven that maybe would be a little bit hard to read. Yep. And people get harder to read as you know them better too, obviously. I think it's easier to read somebody that you don't know on the surface. Like it doesn't take very long to tell if somebody's just a genuine, confident human being or a non-confident human being, because there's lots of those too. Or if they're just an arrogant jackass that thinks they know everything, right? Like totally. You literally, like you said, you can pick them from a crowd.
Them out of a crowd. 100%. Yep. Well, and walking us into that. So the difference between ego and confidence is ego is how we want the world to see us. And confidence is how we see ourselves. Like I said before, I want to get this tattooed on my head. I think it's so good. I think it's so good. Like, and like you said before, there's a touch of good ego. Like I think that it is, I also agree that it is, healthy to some degree to have a little bit of ego. But at the same time, to not have that override into the space of confidence. I think the two of them can work together to a certain degree, but
it has to be
not
balanced.
100%. And the confidence aspect of it has to outweigh the ego, because if you don't, then you're just stuck in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right?
It's more like a 90-10 kind of mix than like a 50-50, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd use it as like a marker, if that makes any sense, like as a marker for myself of how far I've come, or like a marker for growth for myself, that when I know that ego's coming, the ego thinking and stuff is coming back and it's stronger or whatever. I've been dealing with this the last 2 weeks as I've been prepping for my new launch and all these things. Like, I know my confidence is growing because I'm doing bigger things and scarier things. And I know that's happening, and there's growth happening there because my ego is desperately trying to keep me in my comfort zone. Like the imposter syndrome is raging like a bitch on her period right now. Like, it is horrible. And so, for me, it's like, I use the ego as a marker to be able to say, this is, how far I've grown. But to listen to the confidence part, that's the 90%, and not listen to the 10% ego and keep me playing small is the trick to it. Right. So
the ego can also work the other way there too, right? Like your ego could be the one telling you like, no, like we know this stuff. We're great at this stuff. We're experts at this stuff. Right. So it definitely can have, I think it's really got like a negative connotation as of lately. And
sometimes,
it can for sure have it, but ego can be used very positively as well if you're keeping it in check. So,
and that's, I think the biggest thing is if you can decipher, okay, this is actually positive and moving me forward versus, okay, I'm just going to listen and I'm scared, and having it fear-based. If it's love-based, absolutely. If it's fear-based, then ego is not a good thing. 100%, but can never get rid of it. So
no, I know,
to play nice together in the sandbox.
So we're going to give you some examples of what like true confidence is or would look like in your life. So it would be things like not being afraid to show your weaknesses. So if you're ego driven or you're arrogant, you're going to come across with an air of perfection, right? Like you are the be all, know all, end all of everything. Whereas if you're truly confident, you're totally okay to show that there is holes in your armor, because those are the places that you're willing to grow from.
100%.
So real confidence is that you're not afraid to show your weaknesses. You also don't seek approval from others. So you can see the contrast here to arrogance, where they are 100% externally validated by other people. If other people aren't saying, oh yes, you're just as great as you appear to be, kind of thing, right? Then they're lacking self-confidence. So that's where they get that from. Real confidence is being that you aren't afraid to fail. So that kind of ties in with the weaknesses, right? Like true confidence will still see you move forward even in failure. You'll learn from that failure. Whereas somebody who is more ego driven or arrogant, they'll completely retreat into their comfort zone when they fail, because they've now been looked upon as if they aren't an expert. They would start identifying as stupid or not worthy or anything like that when it comes to failure, right?
And I think it's really important to also say just what that one, because it's a little bit of that ego as well, right? Like, we're all afraid to fail. I'm fucking scared. I'm scared shitless of failing. It's actually my fear of success, but it's in truth, it's the same thing as fear of failure. But at the same time, like, I use that as a motivator. I don't stop because I'm afraid to fail. I use it as a motivator and I try anyways. Right. But that's the thing is, and I think in that, even there's a true confidence factor in that as well. Right. Like, the
and the ego does factor in there, because let's be honest, every time we fail, we do think about what other people think, right? Like for us as coaches, we'll think about what our friends and family think about us doing this for a living and then failing at something, or our clients or our mentors, right? So that's a good place for the ego to be a good thing for you, right? Like it's necessary there. Real confidence is self-love and self-compassion. I think that's really self-explanatory. People who are truly confident,
for sure.
People who are truly confident, love themselves, love where they are, like they're in tune with themselves. People who are highly ego-driven or arrogant, actually probably don't love themselves inside. And that's why they present the way they do. Right.
And I think it's
real.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
was gonna say, I think it's really important too to say with that real confidence is self-love and self-compassion, that I know the work that I do with with the girls that I coach is self-love can feel like a very scary thing, or could it feel like something that's very far out there. And I know even myself, I don't feel self-love every day. I do, I've got those days, and I can probably speak for you too, that we look in the mirror and think like, oh, I kind of do wish that my body looked like this instead of this or something else. Right. But the biggest key here is that last part. Real confidence is self-compassion, right? To be able to say like, my body is good enough no matter what it looks like. Like that is true confidence to me. So if you read that and you think like, oh, self-love, I'm never going to have confidence because I don't have self-love. Like, don't think about it that way. Think about it from a self-compassion aspect. Cause I think that's the most important part when it comes to true confidence is once you have compassion for yourself, that's going to bleed out of you into every other part of your life. You're going to start having compassion for other people. You're going to have compassion for shitty situations. You're going to have compassion for everything in your life. And that's where true confidence grows. I'm a full believer in that. So if self-love feels too far, switch to self-compassion.
I think most of those people that suffer with self-love and self-compassion, like that don't feel like they have it, are the people who do show up and love and pour compassion all over everybody else in their life as a way to make up for not giving them to themselves. But for people like that, the best journey that you can go on is to turn that inwards, because once you fill your own cup, you're just going to have that much more to be able to pour out into the world. So
100%.
Real confidence is that you don't shift responsibility. So obviously you take responsibility for your own action or inaction, your failures, your successes, whereas somebody who is arrogant or ego driven will oftentimes find an external source, person, excuse, whatever, to be able to blame it on, right? Like it's never their fault. Real confidence is stepping outside your comfort zone, obviously, because confidence equals growth, right? So,
and that ties in with being afraid to fail. The two of those hold hands 100%.
And I think these last 2 points are really, really important and really go together. So before you can have confidence, you have to have some sort of competence in whatever that thing is that you're confident about, right? So you have to be at least a little bit good at it. But it also occurs after action. So you can't just manifest confidence magically into your life, right? Like you can't just be like, okay, I'm confident. And then it just happens. You need to figure out what the steps are in order to lead you in a positive direction in your life, whatever that looks like for you, which is going to be very different for everybody. You need to get good at those steps, those habits, whatever those things are that you're doing. And then that's when real confidence will start to grow.
100%. Pro tip. We want to spill the beans. Pro tip. If we could ever give you like a golden egg of the biggest secret ever, and it's not even really a secret.
No,
the biggest thing to build confidence is to have integrity within yourself, right? Like that's why we do goal setting. That's why we do the work that we do, because that's what truly grows confidence within somebody, is to set a goal for yourself, and which ties into all of these things, right? Like you're going to have self-compassion, you're going to fail, you're going to, take responsibility for the decisions you make or the decisions that you don't make. Going about, if you say, for me, if I made a goal for myself that I'm going to run a 10K in 6 months, I'm not a runner. So, like, where do I even start? I could start and make myself a mini goal that I'm going to walk, a kilometer every day or whatever. And if I don't take responsibility for making that decision, and the first day that I have the chance or the opportunity to do it, I bitch out on myself, I'm not going to grow confidence within myself. I've just let myself down. I don't have self-integrity, right? I haven't kept my word to myself. Whereas if I set a goal and I decide, okay, 3 times a week, I'm going to go run lamppost to lamppost, walk a lamppost, make a goal for myself. And I do that thing 3 times a week, come hell or high water, fear of risk of failure, all of the things. That's where confidence grows, because you have said you're going to do something for yourself. And I think this is so important, because most people, I know me especially, if I tell you I'm going to do something, my word is fucking gold.
Yep.
I don't ever want to let anybody down. If I commit to something, I will do it 110%. But
Yep.
it's so much harder when you say you're going to do something for yourself, because if you don't do the thing, no one else is going to fucking know.
Yeah.
Right. And
even if they do know, it's you that has to live with that every day.
Exactly.
Right. And all that does is raise the volume levels of that shitty voice in your head that tells you, you suck at doing these things. You're never going to do it. You're never going to get your goals.
Yeah. Oh, you did it again. You let yourself down again. Right. Like, that I call it the itty bitty shitty committee. She's a raging bitch sometimes. Cause that's the thing. Oh, you didn't follow through again. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're truly wanting to grow your confidence, set yourself a little mini goal and fucking do it. Do it. And that's going to be the beginning of, and I mean, same thing. It's not like you're going to wake up in a week and have maybe 4 little mini goals that you've accomplished done. And all of a sudden you're going to wake up with like raging confidence. It doesn't happen that way, right? There are so many things that are going to get in your way. And there's so many tests. Like we talked about the universal test last episode with your coffee spilling at the gym and stuff. Like the fucking universe is going to test the shit out of you. There's going to be a blimp that comes and takes you out. Right. And it's the same thing that we always talk about is you have to set yourself up with a goal and you just have to keep trying. Right. That's where you build confidence. I know from my own journey, I didn't start feeling confident in my own skin. I'm 11 years in, and there was so many micro goals I made for myself along the way. I didn't truly start feeling really confident in my own skin until just a couple of years ago, because I had to go through this journey of muck of some of the limiting beliefs and stuff that I believed about myself that I grew up thinking. I had to really take those and like dismantle them before I was able to start really truly understanding what my confidence meant to me. So you just have to start somewhere, and literally your journey will just evolve into what it's supposed to be without you even thinking about it. It's so crazy.
Confidence isn't an all or nothing thing either. No. Like it's not like 100% there all the time once you develop it. It's definitely, it's like a muscle. Like it's something you have to work on consistently. When you need to use it, you flex it and you activate it, kind of thing. Right. Like, but the most important thing to remember is that it occurs after action. And I think we've probably said that about things a million times by now in only 18 episodes, but everything in your life will improve once you start taking action towards whatever it is that you want to work towards. So, and I think the integrity thing too ties in really well. So I put a thing out on my Instagram and I got a response from one of our listeners, Jacqueline, and I asked for the definition of confidence. Yes, thank you. I asked what people's definition of confidence was, and she said being assured in my decisions and my own integrity over others' opinions. Like nailed it.
Yes. We need to send her a prize. Okay, yes, Jacqueline, we're going to get a hold of you because that like fucking nailed it. Mic drop. We're done here. We don't have to record the rest of the podcast. We can finish now.
And she nailed it on the next question too, though. So the next question I put out was how to build confidence. And she said, integrity is an overlooked important character trait, I find. Living with integrity gives you confidence.
Yes. Oh, shit. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Whole stage
so good.
Blows up. Fireworks.
Right?
All the
I think our work here is done. So we'll see you next week.
100%. We could just end with that 100%. And it's so true. And that's the thing is I think like real talk, we're so inundated when we go about our lives with social media and, different media, radio, all the things. And we're always subjected and just bombarded with all of these images of what beauty and all, like all the things that we're supposed to think is confidence, right? Like confidence is beautiful and confidence is this idea of beauty. And it's this idea of the way your body looks and this idea of the way you act and this idea of what you drink. Like it's all fucking marketed to us because we're all looking for that piece of confidence, right? Like if I look this way, if I drink these things, if I listen to this music, if this social media influencer follows me or something like that, that's all things we're striving for. But it's not true confidence, right? Like that's the dopamine hit. That's just the quick feel good hit of like, oh, I just did something good or whatever. Right. And
yeah,
true confidence comes from within. It has nothing to do with the external, right? Like I don't give a shit who follows me on on Instagram. I do, because I shouldn't say that. So horrible. I don't give a shit.
It doesn't define you.
It doesn't define me. I love my social
or your
media.
Success.
Yeah, it doesn't at all. I love my people who follow me on my social media because I look at them as humans. The number that of people that follow me on social media, that's what I don't give a shit about. Yeah. I don't need to have 1 million followers on social media for me to feel confident in what I'm doing and teaching. I think I have 1,300 people and I fucking love my 1,300 people. Yeah. Right. Like that's the community.
And it doesn't matter if it's 1,300 Kim Kardashians or 1,300 Kims from Calgary kind of thing, right?
Kims like from Calgary. Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing is when we think about what true confidence is, it really does have to start from within you. You have to do that work within yourself, because if you're always chasing this idea of what confidence is when it comes to all these external things, you're running a race you're not going to win. Yeah. Like you can't define confidence that way, because every single human being is going to look at those same things and define confidence in a different way. So you're running a race that no one's going to win. Yeah. So you have to turn inside and you have to have that self-compassion and do that work within yourself and do those goals and do the dirty work that no one wants to do. It doesn't come, it's not cheap and it's not easy. Let's just put it that way, right? Like you can do a lot of this work for free, but I don't mean it that way. Like you have to be willing to put in the work in order to be able to find what confidence truly is to you. And when you find that and you show up as that person, it is the most freeing experience I think anybody can ever have. 100%. Yeah.
And I think that's why we're such big advocates about the self-love thing, because it really, like, that is the foundation of success in everything in your life, your finances, your career, your health, your family, like everything, right? Mm-hmm. Everything outside of you will get infinitely better once you heal the inside of you.
100%. And that's just it. Like confidence in your relationships and confidence in your money management and confidence in your job and confidence with your kids. Like that is all, a product of you doing the hard work and figuring out your shit and figuring out the things that hold you back and healing the parts of you that are hurt. And, like that, all of that makes you a better you. Right. Yep. Like, and 100%. Well, that's, I think, exactly why we're huge advocates for this, because self-love isn't just put on a bikini on your body and be proud of yourself. And like
it's put a bikini over your sweatpants,
right? Or your Ellen onesie. It was so funny. I had to record that. Re-record that. I was so mad. I didn't record it because it didn't save on my phone.
If you haven't seen Vanessa's video from Instagram. The story from the last, you have to go on Instagram because she's got it on there. It's freaking funny.
Yeah, I went to post it and Instagram had gotten rid of all my drafts. I was so mad, so I had to re-record it. But I think the second one is even better. But
yeah, I think it is too.
Yeah, no, it's
I think we should wrap up by rereading that quote again. I really think that if we leave everybody with this, if you take nothing else away from however long we've been rambling now for, just remember that the difference between ego and confidence is ego is how we want the world to see us, and confidence is how we see ourselves.
Yeah. Showing up unapologetically as that person. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So good. We could rant all day about this.
I know, right? Thank you everybody for listening. As per usual, I'm getting harped on at home. So my husband is like this is totally just a side tangent, like a YouTube, but he's been at YouTube way longer than you and I have, right? Yep. He actually was like monetized at one point, but then they changed all the standards and I don't think he has enough anymore, but whatever. That's beside the point. Crazy. So he's trying to educate me on what we need as far as like subscribers and watch hours go, which our watch hours are everybody who's watching on YouTube. Like we owe you guys a thank you, because our average watch time on YouTube is like, I think it was just over 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
That is a long time. Most people that watch YouTube videos watch like less than a minute and then click onto something else because they're bored. Yeah. So if you're watching on YouTube and you are watching like the whole thing or half of it or whatever, we really appreciate you because it makes a difference to us. But anyways, it would be super cool, obviously, at some point in the future to be making money from this. So he's razzing me that we need to figure this out and tell people what to do and how to like the button's right there, like in the corner, click subscribe and
push all the buttons,
the little bell, and right. And I'm like, I don't know how to edit the fucking video to do that. Like, what are you expecting me to do?
He needs to step up and do this for us.
Right? That's what I said too. He's got all these great ideas, and I'm like, okay, cool, but like,
how?
Yeah,
do it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyways, YouTube apparently is like super important. So if you could please go to YouTube and search up Self Love Uncensored and hit subscribe, go watch some of our videos, leave us some comments, ask us some questions, give us some feedback, whatever you feel like doing. We would be so grateful for that.
Absolutely.
And of course, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Spotify, you cannot leave reviews. All you can do is just, I don't even think you can subscribe. It's like follow or whatever. But Apple Podcasts, you can review us every episode. So we love that. I know we had some new reviews roll through, and that's great. And yeah, if you guys ever have questions, episode suggestions, guest ideas, if you think you would be a great guest, message us, selfloveuncensored@gmail.com.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing I think is, if you're thinking like, I'd love to be on the podcast, but I don't really have anything to talk about. No, message us, email us. We want
let
to
us decide that. Come on. Like
everybody has amazingness. And if you're even like starting your journey or halfway through your journey and you're stuck or you need some help, like jump on a call with us. Let's do this. Sometimes, listening to other people, other people's stuff unlocks things for other people. So your story that's within you,
that's just it. The things that people struggle with, like whatever it is you're struggling with, there's only a very small handful of different things that we all deal with. They just manifest themselves in different ways in our lives. But odds are that you're going to be able to impact a large part of the audience as well with whatever it is you're struggling with or you want to talk 100%. About.
So good. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys.
All right, friends.
Till next time. Goodbye.
See you later. Bye.